welcome to another Q&A day. I'm Dennis Groenling here on BadAss Harmonica, taking questions from my website that people write to me on social media, and some of these I address briefly in writing form on my website, BadAssHarmonica.com, and I'm addressing one today. A question about, do I recommend learning how to play licks and riffs from the record from great players I admire, or do I prefer to learn like scales and just learn melodies and themes to songs? What's the best way to become a better musician, improviser, so on and so forth? Both approaches are really important if you want to be a good musician. My stance on this, at learning to play and improvise and play music on the harmonica, was just about that. Learning how to play music and being a good musician. If you want to be a good musician, you need to learn all of these things. Just build your vocabulary by learning licks and riffs and songs from the greatest players that you know of. That's a great way to start building your vocabulary, and a lot of times when you start learning these things, you're not going to get it all right the first time you go through these things. It may take a while. You may revisit some of these songs again a few months from now or a year or two from now, because your ear is going to get better, your technique's going to get better over time, and you're going to hear things and realize things and fine-tune things more and more as time goes by. But licks and riffs are a really important way to start learning a vocabulary, whether it's blues or rock or country or jazz, whatever kind of music that you play. But knowing some musical things, a little bit of music theory will go a long way. Learn some scales, learn about playing melodically, how the notes in the scale work together, learn some harmony. These are all very important things as well. I had nobody to teach me. I'm all self-taught. Even the music theory I know, the harmony, the positions, the scales, all these things on harmonica I taught myself. I always heard these things in my head, and I recognized a lot of things. I didn't know what they were or what to call them even. And teaching myself, I discovered all these things and worked at it day in and day out, year in and year out. Here I am years later, and I've been touring the world and playing professionally for over 20 years. But those things are equally important. A good musician should know how to play melodically and make it sweet and stick to a melody, know how to get in and out of different parts of the scale and how to make sense of the different parts of the scale, and know specific scales, blues scales, pentatonic scales, minor scales, all these things, as well as just learning how to play licks and riffs, which is going to be a way to build your vocabulary. One thing, a term that I use is it's a way to start building your musical intuition. You start learning patterns, note patterns, and riffs and licks and passages from the great players, and that's how you start building your own vocabulary, your own way to speak, and eventually you start speaking your own way, which is really important. To me, that's when the magic of this music happens, because that is the magic of this music. It's very expressive. There's a lot of feeling involved, at least when it's done right. And the players that always moved me the most, they were very expressive, and they were saying something. They weren't just playing notes. It wasn't just playing by number or color by number music. It wasn't any of that. That's how you learn and get the basics down. But you want to take it a step further and understand the licks and the riffs, and that comes from knowing scales and knowing harmony and melody and all these things. Even if you don't know it all technically by the names, just study some of these things and playing more and understanding how melodies work together, how to harmonize with the first, the thirds, the fifths, all these things, how to put different arpeggios together as you're playing. All these things really help round out your musicianship. You don't want to just be a lick player. To me, just learning licks and riffs is such a small piece of the puzzle and a small piece of the picture. Sure, it helps, but it's one piece. Knowing scales is another piece. You don't just want to know scales, but knowing them really helps out making sense of licks and riffs, and it helps you out actually build your own licks and riffs over time. Okay, so all of these things are really important, no matter what style of music you want to play. And on top of these things, of course, you have learning how to play your instrument right, learning how to play it well, getting the most out of your instrument with techniques, a lot of tongue blocking, effects, Actually, all the tom blocking effects can only be done tom blocked. So I recommend learning a lot of that. Even if you're not going to tom block all the time, learn some of those effects, or you're going to be missing out on a lot of things that the harmonica has to offer. Alright, thanks for tuning in for this Q&A day, and I'll see you next time.